Hi, it's Jeff again. I'll put my label on so you know who I am and I know who I am. Right, the second part is to show you how to make a frame. I assume most of you have done it, but for those who haven't, if you'd like to see my stock, I've just got all my frames in the Thorns sale at £30 per 50, as opposed to £17 or £23 for 10 if you buy them during the season. Again, it's cheaper to buy in the sales, though they are seconds and you do lose about 5% through knots and bits. Right, so what problems have we with YouTube again? The Thorns method of making a frame is not correct. So they have a YouTube system where they try and get you to put the frame between the wax between two narrow slots and slide it in. I come across it so often as a basic assessor, and people will lose marks for making it the Thorns way because they'll probably on a hot day not be able to get a piece of flimsy wax down between two slots. I can't understand it, because on a box of Thorns nails is the correct way to make a frame, yet they don't follow it in their YouTube video. So I'm going to make a standard super frame. Alright, the top bar is a wider bar. I use the wider bars as opposed to a narrow bar. So we're going to use a wide bar. It gives you less burr wax in the boxes. Two side bars. Now these are Hoffman side bars, so there's no need for castellations or plastic runners. 12 frames to a box. You will probably be given, if you buy the budget hive from Thorns, these which require spacers. I would just use them for firelighters. So what tools do you need? Well, nails for a start, a small hammer, not a big hammer, otherwise you'll end up with black fingernails where you hit them. Something sharp like a hive tool, two bottom bars, and a sheet of wired wax. Okay? Now, you can use unwired wax. I can get it out. This is unwired wax. There's no wires in it, and that requires the American style wired frame. Most of the other YouTube American videos tell you how to make these frames. I would suggest that you don't follow them, because they're even worse than the Thorns video, because you will not have eyelets, wire or a stringing frame. So what's the first thing you do? Well, make sure there's not too many knots in it. Take your hive tool and take off the wedge. Okay, using a blunt knife, not a sharp knife, because you will in fact go through the wood and properly cut your thing. Scrape out and clean where the wedge is attacked. Can you see sort of little. Right, clean. Two sidebars, Hoffman sidebars. They are handed. There's a groove. The groove goes inwards. So taking your frame, fix it in, groove inwards, take the other frame, fix it in. Okay, now make sure it's seated correctly. This one isn't. Give it a slight tap with the side of the hammer. Right, you now have this for a frame. Right. Place it with the thicker part away from you. Take some nails. See where I'm putting the nails? Other end. And you see where I'm putting the nails? I'm not putting it in the ridge, the top. I'm putting it into the side. Okay. Turn it over. See where it's going? Again, see where I'm putting it in. Right, stable. Take a bottom bar, right, and on the same side as the upstand, put it in the top. Right, so you've got where the wedge was on this side, where the bottom bar is still attached. Right, put it in. Right, so I'm now going to nail that. Now make sure that the end of the bottom bar is really flush with the thing. Right, so I'm now holding a small nail in my hand. You want this kind of hammer, so you can use the small bit so you don't bash your fingers. Then turn over to the big bit. Repeat at the other end. Horrible. Show you here again using the thin part of the hammer just to get it started. Again, make sure it's flush. Right, so we've got something we work with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nails we've used so far. Now, your wax has loop wires. 2 on one side, 3 on the other. If you're using commercial frames, from the commercial size, which are wider, you will find that there's 4 loops and 3 loops. But on the wax that most of you will be using, in a Super or in your brew box, there's 3. Turn over the 3 loops. Right. Taking your frame with the upstand bit of the top bar away from you, put the wax in, turn it over, and you've now got a little ledge where you can, and I've got to put it in the wrong way talking to you, so all the mistakes we'll make. So with the bent loops, so we've got the bent loops down, push that down, so the bent loops are going to come, I'm just really slowly pushing up, so the bent loops are right up against the thing. I then bend these over at the top. Some people don't, some people do. Right, we now have the wedge. Clean the wedge up. Right, the wedge fits in like that. Now, with the frame on the bench, take a nail, and in the middle of where the loops are, start it off, pinching as you go. So I'm pinching quite hard. Okay. Second one, in the middle of the second loop, the middle loop, start it off, right, pinch quite hard, and the final one in the bar at the end, in the middle where the wire comes down. Okay, one more to do. The bottom bar. Place the bottom bar in. If the wax is a bit buckled, hold it with your hive tool away from the bottom bar. The end, hold it, use the thin part to start off. Right, one made frame. Number of nails, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. As an examiner, assessor, that's what I'm looking for. Some people, how can I show it? Put the nails down there at an angle. You damage the wax with your hammer, right? As an assessor, if you did it that way, put, as the Thorns video says, putting it down there at an angle, I would point out that you could damage the wax, and it's better to place them vertical. Okay, so that's a basic frame. You will require 12 of these in a box. I use Manley frames, which are slightly different. I can't get out. But if you can see, they're straight-sided and wider, and they're only 10 in a box. self spacers are better for you as a beginner. I've got some spacers here. If you're using the narrow sides, then you have to have spacers on. Sorry, not the sidebar, is it? It's I'm using Hoffman spacers, which is different. You put a spacer on the end, okay? But you've got to take them off to extract. They get covered in propolis. They're very bad if we actually get small hive beetle and wax moth lay their eggs in them, all sorts of things. So I would suggest using the Hoffman, which is an SN4 with a small and SM5 with a large top bar. Any other tips? Well, I make my hives up to the stage just before I put the wax in, and I will make them up 12 to a box or 10 to a box with the Manley frames, and I will put the wax in when I need it, because the wax can get a bloom on it which the bees don't like and won't draw out. I know when you get your box, your hive, you are going to make everything up. But remember, you're going to have 11 frames in a brood box, and you've made up 11, right? Feeling pleased with yourself. And then you buy a nuke, which has got 12 frames with it, or 5 or 6 frames with it already. So your wax, 5 frames of your wax at least, are going to be hanging around for a whole year before you're likely to use them. Only make frames up when you need them. Make the basic up wood without the wax, and insert the wax the evening before you use them. Keep it in its wrapping. It stays much fresher than making it up. Anything else? Yes. Hot days, 26 degrees centigrade, 30 degrees centigrade. Your bees are pulling in nectar like there's no tomorrow, and you need a super, and you take it out in the garden to make on the garden table, and you've taken your wax out. It will be literally like a limp rag, and you will be able to do nothing with it. So in summer, just before you make your wax up, place it in a fridge. Lay it flat. When it comes out, take out 1 or 2 sheets at a time, fit that, go back, take more out, because the wax will be stiff and will be much easier to work than a limp piece of rag that is going to be compressed with finger marks, bent, and won't really want to go in and look like this. Okay, that's the end of my video. We're going back to questions now, I assume. So goodbye and best of luck with your new beehives.